¿Vives en Nueva York? ¿Yo? No vivo en Nueva York. Vivo en Michigan. ¿Haces la cama? ¿Sí o no? ¿Ah? Dime la verdad. ¿Haces la cama? No haces la cama, ¿ah? Yo sí. Yo soy un buen esposo. Hago la cama. ¿Escuchas música clásica? ¿No? Yo sí. Escucho música clásica, pero prefiero la música rock clásica de los años 60 o 70. Bueno, ¿y lavas los trastes? Yo sí. Yo lavo los trastes. Ayudo a mi esposa en la casa. Aren't you getting a little tired of talking about where you live, or whether or not you make the bed, or what kind of music you listen to, or whether or not you wash the dishes? Well, I am too. But just be patient. We're getting there. We're laying the groundwork with the most important structures you need to be able to interact with me or any other Spanish-speaking person in the simplest form, in the present tense. And so be patient. We're getting there. Very soon we'll start to expand your vocabulary. And then conversation might get a little more interesting. And in the meantime, we're going to give you a little change of pace today by moving to a study of numbers from 0 to 19. Now, is it really that important to be able to master a knowledge of numbers? Yes, it's absolutely critical. I lived in Europe for 13 years of my life, and it was in France specifically. And when I lived in France, when I would go to the store every single day, or I would go to the bank, or even more significantly, I imported sporting goods and distributed them in France. And I would get calls from my customers, and I had to be able to give them the model number of the item they're interested in. I had to be aware of, instantaneously cognizant of the quantity of the item that they wanted to purchase. I had to be able to accurately communicate spontaneously and instantaneously the cost per unit of that particular item. I had to give them the total cost. I had to explain to them the cost of the shipping. And then I had to be able to accurately copy down their street address. I had to be able to understand and write down accurately their contact telephone number. This was before cell phones. Their code postal, which was their código postal, which is their zip code. And so getting numbers accurately, understanding them and be able to use them accurately could make the difference in hundreds of dollars for me. So I had to be accurate, and you too. In a Spanish-speaking country, people are not going to want to wait around for you to think of what a number should be, or what a number is that means that they're communicating to you. You've got to know them instantaneously, and you need to know them, very importantly, out of sequence. What I mean out of sequence. When people study Spanish in elementary school, for example, and they just begin learning the language, they say, oh yeah, I know numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's not knowing numbers. That's memorizing a poem. The key to knowing numbers and be able to use numbers and understand them is to be able to understand and use them out of sequence. 3, 7, 5, 9, 1, 0, 7, and then numbers far beyond a single digit as well. And so that's going to be the focus of this particular lesson, is giving the proper pronunciation of numbers, communicating to you also the similarities, the connections that exist between certain numbers, for example, 2 and 12, 3 and 13, 4 and 14, 5 and 15, emphasizing the similarities between those numbers, drilling you to the point where you can come up with a number, identify it, pronounce it in a very short period of time. So let's take a look now at lesson 1.7 and see the diverse kinds of activities that you'll have to perform there. Okay, here we are on lesson 1.7, and in the video which you see in the first section, you'll be presented with the numbers themselves, their pronunciation, similarities that exist between numbers, and you'll start to be urged to produce them more and more rapidly. The second section, you're to repeat the numbers, and so you'll click on 1,
9,
and you'll say 9.
cinco,
Cinco. But notice I'm going out of order. I'm not going I'm going in sequence from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go out of order as you do almost really all of these activities here. In the next section, it's a little more challenging. You'll click on a mouse.
seis,
You'll hear a number, and you'll have to go and try and find seis. Seis. Is this seis?
ocho,
No, it's not it. Is this seis?
seis,
Yes, I got it. Okay. So you'll just keep moving from one mouse to the next and listening to the sounds and trying to match them. In the next section, you're going to repeat these numbers here, but I would say repeat them again out of order. Go from uno
uno,
to once,
once,
dos,
dos,
doce.
doce,
So you're emphasizing actually you click on them first and then repeat them afterwards, but you're emphasizing the similarities that exist between similar numbers. And then we go down to section 4, and in section 4 you have the numbers from 11 through 19 that are presented to you, and then again you see this emphasis upon numbers which are similar, like cuatro,
cuatro,
catorce,
catorce,
and you'll see once you get to the numbers above 19 that this similarity, of course, is going to continue. Cuatro, and then 14 is catorce, 40 is 40, 400 is cuatrocientos. So there's a similarity, obviously, between those numbers, and that's what is being focused on here in the second half of this section right here. So you say the numbers first, and then you click and see if you are right or not. Next section. Now, if you're in a classroom situation, this is a good competitive game where you send students to the front of the classroom, and you'll click. The teacher will click on the mouse,
seis,
and the students are to, as you see by the symbolic direction, are to touch the number on the screen. The first one to touch the right number wins, and the other one sits down, etc. However, if you're studying this independently, simply click on the number
seis,
and go and try and find the one that makes the sound seis.
seis,
Yes, that's it right there. Okay. Next section. In the next section, it's a timing situation. The timings are very important because we're talking about the ability not to reflect and eventually come up with the proper form of a number, but you want to instantaneously be able to provide it, because people are not going to want to wait for you to think of what number it is you're trying to say. So we got 30 seconds here. Let's see how well I can do. 3, 4, 19, 15, 0, 12, 6, 16, 7, 17, 8, 11, 14, 13, 2, 10, 1, 18, 5, 9. Stop. So you saw I wasn't racing, I wasn't hurrying, I was just going at a steady pace, which demonstrates that I know these numbers. There's no need to panic and to try and race to say them. And I had plenty of time left. I had 8 seconds left. Now, if I really want to fly, I'll show you in a second why I'm doing this. I'm doing this first of all to show off, but there's a second reason which is a little more valid for doing this. Okay, I'm going to start at the beginning again, and now I'll go as quickly as I can. 3, 4, 19, 15, 0, 12, 6, 16, 7, 17, 8, 11, 14, 13, 2, 10, 1, 18, 5, 9. Stop! Almost 8 seconds. Okay, so I had plenty of time left. Outside of the need in my heart to show off, the validity in this and what I just did there is that is how you need to know numbers instantaneously. Like I said, people are not going to want to wait for you to think of what the number is, to think first in English, then think of the corresponding number in Spanish. That's not going to work. And in daily life, people are not going to speak to you in that fashion either. And so both for the timed activities and at the very end, you're going to see a PowerPoint video which will oblige you to produce the number more and more rapidly as it advances. These are very, very valuable kinds of activities because they push you to move toward fluent speech and toward the kind of a rate of speech that people will find acceptable in everyday life in a Spanish-speaking country. The last section before the PowerPoint video, you're simply to say these numbers. Don't say them in order. Say them in reverse order, for example. 19,
19,
18. Click and see if you're right.
18,
17.
17,
Click after you've said them to see if you are right or not. And like I mentioned, the last section is a PowerPoint video. If you can't keep up with the fastest pace in the PowerPoint video, you don't know the numbers well enough. You need to go back to the first section and start over again and build up to this activity. Okay, that's it. I'll see you at the beginning of the next class. Adiosito.